So it should come to around 10 to 12,000 rupees per kilowatt hour for good battery packs. In 5 to 7 years, it's quite possible.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Uh, you're heartily welcome to the 10th episode of Tech Talks. We are today being joined by Mr. Rahul Raj, co founder of Inverted Energy. Rahul is an IIT BHU alumnus and worked for companies like eValueServe, ZS, and Novartis. His specialties include data analytics, market analysis, business solutions, business research, and space solutions. Inverted Energies is a young startup which has scaled many peaks in a short time had and since its foundation in 2017 and already has more than 100 megawatt hour capacity to its production recently added with a plant in Delhi. And they recent and that's a lithium battery manufacturing plant in Delhi, which has a production capacity of 100 megawatt per hours. And this figure will go up in the upcoming months for sure. Well, we will get to know more while talking to Rahul on this. You're most welcome, Rahul, today to the 10th episode. Would you really like to share a few opening comments for our audience?
Yeah, thanks, Gaurav, Harsh, and Shekhar ji for and the whole Gyaniki team for inviting me. It's really like heartening to see that you guys have created a very good forum that I was speaking earlier also, where people come and exchange ideas. I keep visiting Shekhar's ji LinkedIn profile to see what he has posted. Probably like one of those guys in the industry who is working towards sharing knowledge, building ecosystem. So thanks again. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Well, that's quite encouraging for the whole team of Gyaniki, and you have been contributing to the ecosystem as well equally. Uh, and I'll hand over to Harsh from here, so we can get onto the session now. Over to you, Harsh, please.
Thank you, Gaurav. Very good morning to everybody. And again, a warm welcome to Rahul for making the time today. This is the 10th episode of Tech Talks. And as some of you who've been here in the past, things are getting interesting as we go along. And I guess the more we do these sessions, the more we see that batteries and energy storage systems still tend to be one of the biggest question marks when it comes to how the industry develops and where we go from here. And which was one of the reasons, major reasons why we have Rahul here today, and we invited him. Is Inverted is doing some really great stuff, and in my personal opinion, just visiting their website itself is sort of an experience. It sort of welcomes you into figuring out, even if you are not looking to build a battery pack, you can pretty much go on their website and you'll be sort of goaded into at least trying and figuring out what sort of spec you want. So that's something very interesting I found, just from the way they've set up their website. Anyway, we'll dive right into questions. So the first one, Rahul, and this is something that I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about as well. The entire battery and energy storage system side of things is a very hotly contested area. So could you sort of walk us through what was the reasons behind you guys deciding to get into this space, and what's your vision behind it? Like what's Inverted's vision eventually?
Sure. So, what brought us together was our friendship. All the co-founders in the company, Raghav, me, Aditya, we have been knowing each other since 2008. Sorry, 2005, because we studied together and we were pretty close friends over there. So every Friday discussions, in colleges, you discuss that we'll do something together. We'll do something together, and we'll make a startup together. So that discussion continued till long. And in 2016, we thought that it's time that we should actually start something together. So after graduating, we all diversified into different fields. As probably Gaurav have already said that I was working into Novartis. I was managing the US analytics data for that. Aditya started his own solar company by the name of Ornate Solar. That was doing quite good. Raghav was with JP Morgan in Hong Kong, and then he came here to lead the part load business in Revigo. So in 16, we were just discussing that we should start something together, and we were exploring areas. We started with warehousing business idea, and then that was something. So we got good publicity, but it was not very interesting. Then we saw that energy is a sector where probably there is lots of gaps, and the government was also pushing a lot towards that direction. Aditya was already working in the solar segment, so we had some background. And 16, there were a few good tenders for EV space. We started exploring that, and from EV chargers, slowly we migrated to battery. So that was the whole thing. So we saw that EVs are very like energy as a space was very lucrative, uh, and over the time we realized that not apart from business, it also gives you a satisfaction when you see that you have been able to electrify villages. It gives you satisfaction when you learn engineering and physics, whatever you have learned during your college, that you apply that. And it also gives you a very good connection, because in energy right now, very vibrant people are there, so the discussions are very good. So that space was actually good, and yeah. So that's the reason we started exploring the space.
Right. Yeah, sounds like a good reason as any. I'm just one moment. I think there is some disturbance. Just one second. Yeah. In that same space, just sort of a continuation to that. So, you're a pretty young startup in a lot of ways. Can you share, and I'm sure in this group and in general, there are a lot of people who are similar to you or evaluating whether they can, start a business in this domain, or maybe they have an existing line of work in the ICE domain and want to switch. Can you share some high-level challenges or issues that you may have faced as a startup in this space? Just sort of, advice for people who may be considering getting into this area.
Yeah, so as if you ask for space, the space is of course very lucrative, and young people should look into this. The petrol prices are soaring, diesel prices are soaring, so of course energy is one of the most required. If like any country, so in fact, if you go to the first industrial revolution, or even if you go back to the first step when humans evolved, it always started with new kind of fuel, new kind of engines, new kind of motors. So that's how fire was the first revolution, then probably industrial revolution or atomic revolution. So that way, of course, we have just scratched the surface. The battery domain, though it is 100-year-old technology and all, people started working on EV and all. But right now, it is at the stage when it makes commercial sense, and we have just scratched the surface. So of course, the area is very open. And the second good thing, for newcomers, I would say that lot many people don't understand the space, because it's not. Hello.
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, so lot many people can probably don't won't understand this space, because it needs some fundamental understanding, and the space is operated like a black box. So if there is so much opaqueness, and if there is so much to explore, it's already a good space to work in. So that way it is good. When new people they start into the space, they should initially build work few days to understand the fundamentals of the business, how the space is operating, fundamentals of the product, and then they can do really good. Because if you start simply by using it as a trade mechanism, probably maybe a very short-sighted thing. But for a long play, you can like invest good time understanding the tech, the business side, the commercial side, and it would be a very interesting space then.
Thank you. Okay, so getting a little more specific with Inverted now. From a portfolio standpoint, I see that you folks are right now heavily focused when it comes to the mobility end of things. I'm focusing on mobility first. You guys are heavily focused in the 24 to 72 volt system range, right? That includes your e-scooters, e-bikes, rickshaws, so two-wheelers and three-wheelers predominantly. In this area, again, again, a very, very hotly contested space. Way too many people, it's like a big sea of people in this area. So can you share any specific design elements, or just from a product standpoint, what would you say stands out as far as Inverted is concerned versus all this competition out there?
Yeah. So like when you speak to people in EV, they would come with lot many probably technical terms, jargons that what differentiates you. In fact, like 2 years back, we also thought we'll start exploring into thermals, we'll start exploring into electronics and all. We explored over that over the years, and we realized that again, like, if unless we don't understand the fundamentals, we won't be able to do justice to the whole battery thing. So you won't be able to design a good thermal unless you understand how a battery, what kind of heat flux a battery is generating. And before that, you need to understand what is the space that customers are giving. So even if you design a fantastic battery and the customers, like most of the OEMs right now, they have very limited space. So you can't do anything. You can't use phase change material and all. So first, like if you start understanding the fundamentals, it would be easier for you. That what are the components, what components makes the maximum impact. So if your cells are good, you have already won 80-90% of the battle. So that is the most important part, because like going for like smaller aspect helps you a lot. For example, connector, if your connector is good, it solves a lot many parts. If your probably nickel strip is of good quality, it solves a lot many things. And then so we started investing in these, and in parallel, so we generally operate in two ways. We have an engineering team and an R&D team. Probably most of the companies work like this only. And the R&D team, there we like start with one element and we explore it to the deep, and we try to understand what is the impact it would make. So right now, like the current space where the market is moving, you don't have lot of play in terms of innovating a lot. So you can only do good designs. You can use good cells and good connectors. But in like probably when the market grows, then your scientific terms would start, or thermal or mechanical structure would start coming into play. So like you have to carry both things together, that your engineering should be as strong as design. So people in India generally, they tend to underplay the engineering part. Probably where a screw should be fixed, what kind of welding has to be used. So what we do is that we go to a fabricator and we say that we want this product without understanding why do we want that. And in most cases, we start copying whatever China or other foreign market have given without understanding it would work or not. So there we have started working a lot, that even in terms of design, what design is most suited for Indian condition, for Indian vehicles. And then on top of it, probably what components would work better over there. And of course, the thermal, structural, that part, and BMS calculation and all. So that our team is doing in parallel. But to be very honest, right now where the market, the people are there, we don't need very complicated system. We need robust and good working system instead of a very scientific or complicated systems. At least in two wheelers.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on things, and I guess it makes sense. Whatever issues we've seen in the field so far tend to be in these areas where things have either been quickly hobbled up together, or they're coming from some other part of the world, and it just get assembled without actually understanding the basics of the system. So that makes sense. And so when you say BMS, is that also something that's a proprietary hardware and software, right, with Inverted, or is it more like just the calibration side of things that you work on when it comes to the BMS? Because that I believe, sorry to interrupt. I believe that by working in this space, we've seen that batteries are one side of things, but how well your BMS is calibrated tends to really decide whether your pack is going to survive or not. So from that perspective, how is Inverted approaching that?
17. So BMS was again a black box, and all of the three co-founders, we came from metallurgy background. So electronics was something which we did not understand. And then when we asked people that what is BMS, so no one would say that BMS is a probably you do charge balance, or probably you do voltage imbalances, you manage with that, or threshold and all. People would generally start with Kalman filter. They would do like they would start with jargons which you won't understand, neural network and all. And it was such hard, like we really got scared that what exactly is this. And probably last 17-18 we did it. So there are lots of material all available on the internet, plus we met professors. We work very closely with IIT Delhi, IIT Kanpur, and then we started understanding what exactly is BMS. And over the time we understood that all the logics, probably Kalman filter or whatever neural network, these are very, so those would make only 3 or 4% change. Plus you need to have cell characterization before applying those to your BMS. So when people say that take the BMS, it already have Kalman filter and all, without asking that what cells are you using, they are already doing injustice to your system. So in 17, 18, it took us a long time to understand what exactly is BMS. And then we thought that, so there are two ways to work on it. First, we start understanding what components are used, what impacts those components are making. Because if we don't understand it and we buy it from someone, it won't help. So there we invested a lot. So before building our own BMS, we started understanding what BMSs are already available, what kind of components should be used. So we in fact we have partnered with people for BMS. And there, again, initial part was to calibrate, to understand that probably you should use this IC. So we used to tell our vendors that we need these quality, probably these are the registers which we need. And with time, so last during this lockdown, we have developed our own BMS, but we work both ways. So we work with partners where we say that these are the values which we need. And for our own BMS, so it is in testing phase. So we have done BMS for 12 volt systems, for 24 volt system. For 48, we are building our own BMS. And the reason again is more to build product is to more to understand what kind of BMS is required. And that can only be done if we build a sample, even a sample. If we start making our own BMS, then only we would be able to understand that this is something which probably would work the best. So there we stand in terms of BMS.
Absolutely. Okay. So makes perfect sense. I like, I'm at least personally, I see I like this approach of not diving into everything in one go and sort of ramping up to a point where you eventually, tend to like basically own the entire design of your own. Like at one end, like you're already covering a very hot segment of two-wheelers and three-wheelers. We know passenger cars are still sort of catching up and will take us a little more time. But then there is this segment of buses of public transport, right? Where there is like equally to two and three wheelers, there's a lot of work going on. There's a lot of people trying to, launch their buses and a lot of incentives and whatnot. Any reasons why you guys haven't looked into that side of things, or are there any future plans to get into packs which are 300 volts and above?
So we looked into the space early, like in 17, 18, we also explored the space, but we realized that probably the market over there is not that big. Plus, there are stiff competition over there. And then, unless we understand the basic batteries, again, it would be a pure trading that we are buying and assembling products. So that was the reason we probably stayed away from that part in the initial days. And we also realized that the market in two-wheeler and three-wheeler are much during that time was much bigger than the buses or transportation businesses. So in terms of bandwidth also, because we are bootstrapped, we have limited number of people, so we wanted to very focused on the areas where it performs good, and that's where we started on two-wheeler and three-wheeler. In storage, we have built system, we have given systems, of course, assembled system where those are very high voltage systems, 500 volt, 600 volt types of system. So we understand that probably the topology would be very similar if we go for buses and all. But till now, we have not been very, to be honest, very serious to that field. It would again need proper dedication and focus to look into that area. And for that, we have not spent that much time in that segment.
Okay, fair enough. You bring up a good point about stationary storage, right? So, and that was sort of where my next question was going. You guys have some really good experience there. Your offerings tend to vary all the way from 3 kilowatt solutions for homes to 10 megawatts for grid type solutions, including some solar batteries. Can you like walk us through a little bit about that? Some of your exciting projects. You also mentioned something about lighting up remote areas of the country and stuff like that. So can you please share a bit about that?
So when we started our business, we started with lead carbon battery. We partnered with a company by the name of Narada, and that time we were trying to serve to all the rickshaw players. That was the initial idea, and then we realized that people won't buy a battery which looks like lead and it's selling at expensive rates. So we started exploring some other batteries. And during that time, we partnered with a company by the name of Pylon-Tech. It is again 1780s, initial 1718 days. The good thing, so we kept visiting China, Germany, and some other regions of the Europe, for example, Austria, to understand what would be making news in coming years. So during that time, we started with this company by the name of Pylon-Tech, and they had this offering that you can build very high voltage systems. And because of that, so we could reach to lot many EPC players, to lot many installers and all, and we kept asking for projects where we saw that solar with battery makes lots of sense. Though even that during that time batteries were very expensive, but few people were trying these systems. So we were able to do a few very good systems in some village areas of Maharashtra, in Bengal, in Assam. So that was with high voltage batteries. Luckily, by 18, your Saubhagya scheme came. Saubhagya scheme was the government was trying to electrify villages where they were looking for 12.8 volt and 108 systems to probably electrify houses. And during that time, we saw that the products those were available in India were substandard product, and that the reason was that people were just buying dumped product without even checking and all. So there we started working a lot, and we explored that what kind of cells to be used, what is the BMS that has to be used, what supply chain has to be built. And over the last 1.5 years, we would have done 60 to 70 megawatt hours of batteries over there. And these were typically home lighting systems those are sent to rural areas to electrify the houses. And again, like 50 to 60,000 of houses would have been electrified through these batteries. So these were small systems, but so that gave us an idea that how batteries can perform. That also gave us an idea that how cells differ. Because initially we used to think that anything that is LFP or NMC would do like tremendously good. And with time we started seeing experimenting. We sat in their labs. We sat in our labs. We have been to China. We sat to their in their labs for weeks to see that how batteries performs at higher temperature, at lower temperature. We tried to replicate a similar setup in India with IITs inside our facilities, and that's why we were able to do small systems. And in parallel, these are our own batteries. In parallel with Pylon-Tech, we were able to meet to lots of discoms, and also we kept meeting discoms. They had their problems, and initial approach was that we used to go sit with them and ask their problems, and we proposed solutions to them that if this is your grid stabilization problem, this is the size of battery probably you should have. If there is a peak shaving problem, so this is something which you could do with your high voltage storage system. If there is a stress at your distribution transformer, at your DT, so this is the size of battery that would help. In summers, it would help like this. In winters, it would help like this. We had a dedicated software team that ran data for whole Delhi and simulated result that what kind of battery size should be applied to normal households. During that time also we were lucky to have few EPC project with very good companies. Like we did one project with discussion with Big Basket and similar companies like this, where they were trying to go completely off grid. And there we used all the good equipment to understand what is the power factor, what kind of harmonics battery would see, or probably what would be the sizing of solar. So we had expertise in solar, so that gave us a very good penetration or good network where people were looking for to apply batteries with solar system. And we have applied, we employed a few good like high voltage systems over there. And right now, even this year, beginning this year, we partnered with LG. LG came RESU. So we are working for home residential solution. We have started offering those solutions to people who are looking for it. So that was complete, like as you asked, the gamut of from smaller battery to large 600, 700 volt systems, or like 10 megawatt hour systems. That's the complete journey which we have seen.
That is absolutely fantastic. Going through pretty much like evaluating every end of things from requirement to how things work, what ambient conditions have effect, how they have effects on things. That's a lot of research that went into it. So yeah, it's definitely makes sense. It doesn't come easy for sure. Um, so I mean, you mentioned lithium batteries and how cells are very important factor, right? Especially if we stick to the battery side of things. Uh, we all know that sourcing is an issue right now, is an
Yeah.
ongoing challenge. The recent COVID situation and the whole freight issue. Everybody is clamoring for good quality cells. Even if that does not exist, we are still very much dependent on countries abroad. The supply chain pretty much is dependent on
Correct.
countries abroad be able to source these cells. Now, at the same time, we've also recently heard some news. I mean, it's been going on since a couple of years now, where they say Indian Oil is looking to invest in metal air batteries, and then we also hear about graphene batteries. Uh, Metal air batteries, for example, cannot be recharged, but tend to be a very great, at least on paper, a very great solution. So, is Inverted looking at any of these possibilities? And you also mentioned tie-ups with IITs. So any idea? I mean, maybe any research or any work going on where eventually you're looking to, have a localized solution for the probably the most important part of the energy storage system.
Uh, Probably like any new technology we have realized. Like since you are running a business, you have to also be practical. Like for us, it's very important to stay practical, and we have realized that R&D of course helps, but your business should keep running, and you should keep focused. You should stay focused towards area where probably revenue would be coming. So any new technology would take, it wouldn't be easy. So if we suddenly switch to some other technology, it would take long time to get it to get to be for it to become commercial, right? So that's why the core focus is always towards lithium, because it would at least stay for some time. But in parallel, so because we are working with IIT, we are exploring technologies like zinc gel batteries, zinc air batteries probably is something where we were exploring, because that was one space. Then in lead also we are looking for variations. So lead carbon was one variation which we are looking earlier. So there are a few similar technologies where we have started looking supercapacitor and all, but we have not invested lots of time. Probably this year we would aim. That was one of the targets for it this year, to look for alternatives which can become commercially feasible in coming years. But again, like lithium is the core focus. We have explored LFP and MC, and we are trying to understand that. At the same time, we have also understood that if probably understanding batteries as chemistry, if we understand that what are the voltage ranges, if we understand that in terms of the core principles of batteries, so we would be able to switch from one technology to other technology. Uh, like without struggling. So, for example, if you understand that LFP works in this range from this voltage to this voltage, it can be modeled with this kind of capacitor and resistor. NMC can be done with this. So, when you switch from this battery to some other battery, there would be very small changes, but you would be easily able to adapt to that. So, one of the team's motive is to do that part, to understand if we switch to one from one to other technology, it should be very swift. But probably we have not explored a lot, like sodium sulfur battery or whatever new technology is there. We have not explored in details. We have skimmed on the surface level. That's again because the commercial, but we have to stay correct at the commercial level also. That was the reason.
No, I agree. You make sense that from a business standpoint, keeping your business running is very important.
Correct.
But one of the main reasons why I brought this up is that what happens when a bulk of your major components are reliant on an outside source, and if that
Correct.
outside source dries up for political reasons or whatever that might be, suddenly one day you are out of that component, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I was sort of getting into this space or this question mainly.
Yeah.
So looking at, I agree that there are a lot of challenges there. Even partnering up with, say, another local firm is difficult right now because everybody is still just researching in this space.
Correct. Correct.
So it makes sense. No doubt about that. Okay, so from your entire experience, right? You've researched, you guys have been on the ground, have put in a lot of work before you decided to actually get into the space and do something of your own. Um, can you highlight some of the major issues from a field experience standpoint, whether it was at Inverted at its early days or maybe competition that you learned from? Just from a field perspective, any major issues or challenges that you might have seen in this space? Can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, so probably ignorance in terms. So one of the biggest challenges, or like if you work as an ecosystem, is ignorance, or probably less awareness of the about the product. I won't say ignorance. It is less awareness of any product. So right now we operate like the customers which we cater to. They don't want to understand what exactly is the product, and this applies to even like big MNCs. So if I will say that to OEMs who is making a three-wheeler to probably two-wheeler companies where they are selling most of the products, so they like price becomes the most important criteria. So that is one of the challenges that you always face. So you always have to fight the price war before trying anything else out, right? So in that case, probably R&D, and so you have very limited space in which you can operate. You can create a differentiator. For example, if you go to any customer, they will ask that give me the best cell with best probably thermal management. You should have extruded aluminum sheet at the boundary. You should have Anderson connector with probably three CAN bus like XYZ and all. But when you ask for price, they will say that I just need a power source, so you don't need to give me any communication and all. So that is one of the challenges that we have seen. Second, awareness in terms of probably engineering. Initially, we faced a lot of problem. We have learned the hard way. Uh, and I would be probably in these terms, I would say that South India, the south part of the India, people over there understand batteries better or electronics better than the northern half. So initially we faced problems over there also. People used to like initially when we were trying to understand communication and all that, how CAN bus works or how your Modbus and these work. So people probably I had to go to the south. I had to speak to people in the south to get that solved, but it took long time. Like lot many time. I go through lots of lectures, NPTEL lecture or like Indian who are like professors lecture to understand what exactly goes behind it, because people speak on like on surface level only in lot many terms. So in technology we face lots of problem. In commercial again, because it was a new product and people are like people don't are risk averse. So over there also initially we faced problems, but that works. So whenever there is a profit, it guides the direction. So there we have probably solved a lot over there. And in terms of probably good skilled engineers, I would say that is again a very big task. So one of our key effort is to build a good team, and there to have good people is always like biggest challenge, because right now most of our competitors, or probably I would say in the industry, they are people, the top management don't focus a lot on their team. They just employ people who are good in terms of sales, or probably who just do okayish work. But if you have to stay relevant for years, and if you have to deliver really good products, you can't do it alone. You need a very strong team, and there to find it is not very easy, because a good mechanical engineer probably you would be paying half what a normal computer science engineer would be getting. Irony of the nation, but that's how you have to go ahead with. Same with electronics engineer, electrical engineer, and understanding. And you need to find good people. And with our like, because we are very new, we did not have established name. So to convince each guy that you should work for us, there is a reason, and this is what you would get. To show them a larger picture is not easy. So that again is a challenge. But yeah, it was interesting, because that's how you build team, and that's how you survive. That's how you struggle, and that is why you start your own business.
Thank you. I think you answered that extremely well, and thank you for touching on the subject of manpower and skill. That's something that doesn't often get talked about. And yes, it is extremely crucial to have a good team, and also for that team to have faith in the fact that you're doing something for the good. So totally on point. Okay, so I have one more question for you before we switch to one or two audience questions, maybe. And that is to do with we get a lot of questions from people who join, who are part of these sessions, about what is the actual cost per kilowatt hour in today's terms in India? So we hear reports, we see battery specs, and we see, hey, it's $160 per kilowatt hour or whatnot. That's the sort of rate that's going on. But to be very honest, people usually don't know much about what's happening here. What are we paying for it? So would it be possible for you to maybe share a ballpark number on what is that cost per kilowatt hour for a really high quality battery pack? And where do you see it go in the next 5 to 7 years?
Okay, so I'd go in the reverse direction. The holy grail, like everyone would have read, is that the battery prices should go for 100 kilowatt hour, $100 per kilowatt hour. That is what the world is aiming towards. But when, like, in terms of batteries, people generally see one number, and that is probably for cells, and that too to the distributor. So that's why there is lots of confusion. Whereas when you start selling battery, you realize that there are a lot many components apart from just cells. So that's why you have a large spectrum, that people say that there is a price of 160. Some people would say that it is $300 per kilowatt hour, because you can play around with all these different components. Cell, of course, is one of the most expensive components, so that would be around 80 to 90% of the price of your battery. But then for cell to hold good together, you need good welding, you need good skilled labor. So those prices also increases your overall probably battery prices. So in terms of cells, I would say that it is around your uh, $200. A good cell you would get in $200 for 1 kilowatt hour. On top of it, probably you would have to add BMS, engineering cost, and thermal management, probably good connectors, if you want communication, GPS, and all. So that inflates your price. So for now, if you look for a like really good two-wheeler battery, good performance, it should come in around 30,000 odd rupees for 1 kilowatt hour. So that would be for a very good performing battery. 30,000 or like something like that. So that price would be there for a very good battery, inclusive of all the prices. And this is the customer price which I'm speaking.
Right.
But that,
So,
yeah.
so we're seeing that for most two-wheelers where the range is around 2 to 3, around 3 kilowatt hour, maybe in some cases 4 kilowatt hour. So we are saying that almost 80 to 90,000 is what that battery pack along with the BMS
This is
for a
for a
very
very high
high
performance
quality.
battery. Yeah, this
Right.
is a very high quality battery. Yeah.
And no, that is the focus as well, right? When we say performance, is not just
Yeah.
how quickly the battery is discharging or
Yeah.
charging, but also how well it's running, whether it's an energy cell or a power cell.
Correct.
And no, and that makes sense. You're right that everybody focuses on cell prices, but there's a lot more things that go into a pack. And yes, that's exactly what my question was as well. That when I say price per kilowatt hour, I would want people to think about the pack, not just the cell. So yeah, I make sense. Okay, just to round it off, and again, this is more like a guesstimate. Nobody really knows, but what do you see the way things are going in this space right now? In maybe say 5 7 years, what do you think that price parity should be? Where should it come down to actually start making business sense overall?
So in
So
terms
right now,
of
if you're saying
batteries, I mean,
30,000.
yeah, so it should come to around 10 to 12,000 rupees per kilowatt hour for good battery packs. In
Okay.
5 to 7 years, it's quite possible, because the cell prices would go down, electronic component prices would go down. So it would come to that price, 10 to 12,000 per kilowatt hour.
Okay. All right. So, okay, I think I'm sorry, I've sort of gone over time, but let's see. We'll maybe address a question or two from the audience. So I've seen Mr. Prakash Sardesai, who's been waiting to ask a question since a while. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question, please.
Yeah. This is Prakash Sardesai. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask about batteries again. We heard that lithium is available only in China and Chile. And while China is not at all a friendly country, even Chile is a communist regime where things can become topsy-turvy at every election. So recently, there has been a news for some time that in Bangalore, we have got a reserve found at about 14,000 tons of lithium. would that mean that in India would be ahead in a couple of years to make lithium-ion batteries ourselves without being dependent on any countries like Chile or China where lithium is to be sourced from? And if that is so, will that be more cost effective rather than looking for a lot of alternate materials to lithium, and the development time, the development cost, the synergies, instead of getting into that, why don't we look at with this find developing indigenously lithium-ion battery based on Indian reserves, so that we are not dependent on any outside countries, and because the raw material is sourced locally from Karnataka, South Karnataka, then it will become very, very easy to have the batteries made locally. So what is your comment on this? Is this feasible?
Yes, so I have not gone through the details of lithium that is found into Bangalore. I have read the news, and I also read that government is buying some of the reserves outside India. But you are very correct. So as you asked, you have rightly pointed out that if we are able to do that in India, it would do really good, because it would not only the prices would come down, but apart from it, you will have more control. Because right now, whatever you are buying from outside, you don't understand what exactly is the product, what exactly is the purity, exactly is the component, and it would also generate employment in India, which is very much needed. So in fact, only a couple of months back, I was speaking to someone in CSIR lab who wanted to understand, who wanted to speak us regarding lithium, but for lithium as an element only. So I think we have very good CSIR labs in India. Research scientists are there, but processes take time. Processes take time in India. So if we are able to make that process efficient, probably we would be able to deal with it. But right now, the biggest challenge is in all the larger government firms is that to make it commercially viable, they take a lot of time. So it is probably if they get away with the inefficiency, we would be able to compete with the external sources, of course.
Yeah, actually, I understand your comment, a generic comment it is. I would like to point out that ISRO has developed a lot of, high energy density battery for space vehicle applications. And they have already tied up with Automotive Research Association of India, formally with a lot of government grants, to applicate that technology for a vehicular battery for electric vehicles.
Yeah,
so it's not that all the public sectors are taking time. They are already starting to commercialize the technology which they have used for space vehicle and find out the applications for vehicular application. ARI has taken a lead and they have started a cell. Their automotive electronics department is working on that. So probably we all will be, very well informed if we monitor that progress for commercialization. And therefore, it is always possible to develop a high energy density battery locally and in a finite time. My only question is, such effort, do you think it will significantly reduce the battery cost? Because high energy density battery is the need of the hour because of the vehicular constraints. Smaller vehicle, the space constraints are huge. So we must have a best possible high energy density battery. Do you think such efforts locally, which seem to be fructifying in a short while, will that bring down the cost significantly so that it becomes affordable for a customer rather than going for an IC engine, or it will be only a high energy density battery but very expensive? Now, what is your take on that?
So if the technology is available in India and if we have mass adoption, so it would certainly it will certainly bring down the prices. So as you said, for ISRO also, I know a few very good guys working in the cell technology in India, researching in good firm. So they have visited their labs and they have seen the product, the ISRO product, and they said that if done at commercial level, it would be good. For prices, again, as you are saying, that whatever done in bulk, that would stabilize and that will bring down prices. Even right now, in few years, whatever product we are importing, that is going to give a good alternative to the IC IC engine. Right now, lot many two-wheelers, electric two-wheelers I have started seeing in Delhi. That was not very frequent 3 years back. So the prices are coming down. If we understand that this is probably the specification that works best, so of course it would go into mass adoption. I'm very optimistic about and hopeful about that.
Yeah, my last question is about your wish list from this budget. Already there are some benefits for electric vehicles. You as a person in being a domain expert, what would you expect from the budget to promote the electric vehicles? I read that last year total vehicles, four-wheelers were only 3,000 sold in 1 year, which is absurdly low, considering the potential and the push which government wants to give. So what do you think? Maybe something has been done, but much remains to be done. So what would you expect finance minister to do in terms of electric vehicle and battery support in this budget? Do you have any specific wish list which can be communicated to the finance ministry?
Not much, but I would say that we should work on. So I've seen how the prices.
So the fiscal incentives and the specific benefits which you would like as a wish list.
So probably I would say, sir, instead of going for batteries, we should start working on cells, which you have correctly pointed out. So if
Okay, seems we have lost him again. Just give him a quick minute.
Anybody else can comment, on what to look forward to electric vehicle fiscal incentives in this budget? Anybody else wants to comment? I would be very happy.
Sure. I would say that when we talk about even before fiscal incentives, the most important thing is awareness of this technology, right? You mentioned coming to a cost parity with ICE vehicles a while back. I think from that perspective, there have to be incentives in people converting to EVs, right? And one of the first incentive or maybe a government push could be in the scrappage side of things, having existing vehicles, making it easier to retrofit. So right now, a big challenge that the industry is facing is that, for example, let's say fleet companies for that matter, they want to repower their vehicles, but there is no regulation that allows that, right? So basically, legally, you're not allowed to repower an existing EV. So there are a lot of these challenges from just a engineering standpoint, which they could solve or they could make it easier for companies to pursue. And of course, incentives are always like a lot of countries, if you've heard abroad, have tax breaks, have incentives if you switch to an EV at the earliest. So that's something that would drive from a customer standpoint. From a technology
I know. There are already some incentives, I was looking forward to specific suggestions which can be discussed in committees which are being formed, like specific incentives, bringing down GST for electric vehicles or whatever.
Sir, I can give you the email IDs of 2-3 folks who would be more than willing to talk in detail on this.
Yeah.
So I'll share those IDs with you.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, can I have one more comment, Shekhar? I hope you don't consider me too nosy about this, just one comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some committees where I work along with SIM, the sense which many people got on the committee is that refineries, especially those in the government sector, are not too enthusiastic about electric vehicles being promoted at this fast rate, because they have invested like 1 lakh crores in the refineries for BS6 fuel, and they would definitely like their returns to go up, return on investments to go up, and therefore they flatly refused the idea that every fueling station they should have a charging station also, allow a space for charging station also. They flatly refused that with several reasons. So probably, in government itself there is a conflict. Refineries have invested too much, and they think that electric vehicle onslaught will really make their operations unviable because of the returns on this huge investment
So
will be inadequate.
it's
So, how do
like
we handle such conflicts?
there is there should not be any conflict. It seems like Sachin Tendulkar is worrying that a bowler is going to become the star batsman. So that is the scenario that you are talking about. No adaptation happens overnight, and and the real revenue is not really even coming from the two-wheeler segment. Uh, so there are a lot of things. I think there is, and IOCL, BPCL, HPCL, are doing tie-ups in the electric vehicle area as well. So it's not that they may be having a issue at the end, but in the field, that's not the perception that people are getting at least right now.
Right. Okay. I accept that. Yes. Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Harsh, a couple of quick questions for Rahul, and then we can find out.
Actually, Shekhar, sorry, Rahul, I'm going to just address one more because we are pretty close to running out of time. Um, and this is sort of a clubbed question. So one is your view on battery swaps. So we know right now it's a very hot thing in the two-wheeler segment, but we also know that as swapping stations increase, it could be a very big challenge later on because there is really no standardization there. And in the same vein, wireless charging. So these two things that are still way sort of ahead in the future. What is your take on these two things?
So swapping, like if had you asked me 2 3 years back, I would have said that people won't adopt it so fast. But right now, we speak to a lot many OEMs, and they all are looking for swapping solutions. It means there is a buzz, there is a requirement for that. And you also give the answer that standardization is the biggest problem. So right now, we make 18 to 20 different variants of two-wheeler batteries, and that's because there is no standardization in terms of sizes. So probably either it should come from government or it becomes one of the ecosystem thing that they move towards standard in terms of size. Then your whole this thing becomes more interesting. The probably swapping station, because right now just imagine that you are running for 4 different vehicles, you would need 4 different type of swapping station. Even if you just use normal connectors, then also it won't be that easy because they have different connectors, because the sizes are different. Plus, probably some of them want communication to be inbuilt, some of them don't want communication to be built. But fleets are, of course, they are saying whoever is running fleet, for example, Amazon, Flipkart, or Swiggy, they all would start looking for swapping station kind of solution. So there is a definite future over there, and probably the grid discoms and they have to support, because if you start discharging a lot, so infrastructure would be under lots of stress. So when we speak to discoms, they say that it won't be an easy task when you discharge suddenly at a very high pace. So solar plus probably discom can be a good solution over there. It is definitely going to be one of the futuristic things, your swapping station. It depends how we design it. It depends how collaborated the whole industry is. It depends how much we pay value to quality. So we directly copy the whole system from China, which would not be like start just copying their whole product design and all. Either we do that or we design it in India. But like, it is going to happen. Wireless, I would say it's very premature, still very premature. I've seen wireless charging in 2 3 different IITs, and probably it will take some time. It won't be that easy because it takes time. The whole electric core is to charge is fast, and time we are people are trying to race against time. So for wireless charging, still I would say it would take some more time. It won't be that easy. Infrastructure wise, we are very like we need to do a lot. At least for swapping it is easier, but for wireless, the kind of infrastructure, the R&D that is needed, it's a very primitive level in India. Good colleges are doing researches over there, good universities are doing, but for that to reach to commercial, to masses, to businessmen, it will take time. So that's my take on the wireless thing. biodischarging.
Okay. Yeah, I think I agree on both points, and I think we can safely say to Prakash sir now that two things on the wish list are: one, that we want more standardized approach to battery swapping, so that everybody is following a similar protocol, and the same in the charging space as well. We don't want GB BYD and CCS2 and CHAdeMO. Maybe we want to pick one and stick with that. So these two things would definitely be on a wish list from an engineering standpoint. And with that, I would like to close out this session. Thank you very much, Rahul. I think this is we have definitely loved your take on things. It's a very, very, very practical approach, right? Of how you've gone about what your entire process has been so far. So wherever the inverter has reached, and how you proceed from here in the future. So we really appreciate you taking the time out for us. And if you'd like to share some parting words with us before we close it out.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Harsh. It was a wonderful interaction session, and I like when you get to interact with people who are already working in the space, who understand the product, who want to build the ecosystem. It is really it inspires us to go an additional step, and so for us, we always want to have good challenges, and that's the only way we could move ahead. We could do better. So thanks a lot for inviting the whole team, Shekharji, Gaurav, Ganiki team, and Harsh. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Rahul. And it's good that you have spent this Saturday morning. I know you have to rush out to the factory as well. So have a good weekend. And most of the innovation happens on the weekend, as you know. You have already realized that. So have a good day.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
See you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Rahul.